going on, guys? Welcome back to another episode of Leading Leaders. I'm here with Lindsy Jones, our amazing children's church pastor. Go ahead and tell us a little bit about yourself.
My name is Lindsy. So I'm the children's pastor at Starting Point, almost a Temple of Praise, alongside my husband, Landon. We've been married for 6 years. In his video, he said 7. I corrected him when he got home. I was like, it's been 6. And he was like, well, I knew I wasn't sure. And I was like, well, if you weren't sure, then you probably shouldn't have said it.
Better over than under.
Yes, for sure. It'll be 6 years on the 17th, actually, this month. So nice. We've been children's pastors for going on probably 7 years because we did it a little bit before we got married. I've been doing it for probably 8 or 9 years because I did it. It was me and Abby before me and Landon. So we did that for a couple of years, like fresh out of high school. We were young. And then I am also a pre-K or P4, P3 teacher at Varnum. I love it. It's so much fun. I've never had ones that little. I taught pre-K last year and I love that age too, but P3's been different, but it's been fun. We have 2 amazing kiddos of our own. Hudson is 5 and Hayden is 2. They're awesome. They keep us on our toes though. Hudson's in cheer, dance, tumbling, so we're always busy and on the go. And then I'm sure Hayden's going to play all kinds of ball when he gets a little bit bigger.
For sure.
He loves all things sports. But yeah, that's a little bit about me.
Okay. Don't forget, her and her husband do have an amazing apparel store as well.
Oh, yes. Yep. I always forget to say that. Yep. I own H&L Apparel. I've had that since 2020. I closed down for a little bit when we were moving and I was pregnant with Hayden, so things just weren't working out right then, but I opened back up last year, so it's been about 1.5 years since I've been back open. It's small, but keeps me busy, so I don't make much off of it at all. It's mostly just for fun. I usually end up spending my own money, but it's fun. It's fun.
Well, I'm glad that you have something that can a good hobby for you.
Yeah, for sure.
So we'll start out with this personal question. How do you seek God daily?
Just this past year, I feel like my relationship with God has gotten a lot stronger, I would say. I started last year, I read my Bible all the way through, and that was the first year I'd ever done that. So that was a big accomplishment for me. But towards the probably halfway mark of last year, it kind of just became a habit. I was just reading it because, just to mark it off my list, check mark. So I wouldn't really say that really even strengthened my relationship with God last year. It was just something I was listening to. Sometimes it would go in my brain, sometimes it wouldn't. But this year I made it a goal to actually, sit down and read my actual Bible every single night. So I haven't done it every night, but I've read it on my phone, like where I could physically see it, other than just listening to it, because I am visual. If I just hear something, I'm not going to be able to retain it. And that was my problem last year. So definitely reading my Bible I don't even remember the question. It's helped me with my relationship with God, and it's helped me to seek Him more. So I've done that every day. And then we have a little devotion after where we can talk about it, what we learned, what was our God shot, how we saw God in the scripture that day. And that's really helped me a lot too. And then, of course, just prayer and praying a little bit more than I used to. And then, of course, we've been fasting these past couple weeks, and I've saw some big changes through that too.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's one of the things I find that people find difficult is getting that, like you said, a routine or just checking the box,
marking off the boxes.
Yeah.
And I've been trying not to do that this year.
You and me both, trust me.
Especially like these past few weeks with Numbers and Leviticus and now Deuteronomy. I'm like, oh my goodness, it's so repetitive, and I'm just ready for some more narrative stories.
Well, and that was the cool thing about me starting that class, the interpretation of the Bible, was because, man, all of those were like, those are, I get it. But then once you actually place it, you're just like, that's why all of that information is in there. That makes a whole lot more sense.
The study I've been using has helped a lot with that, but still, it's a little boring sometimes, especially with like all the tribes and,
But it's crazy how they line up.
Yeah, it is.
Boom, boom, boom.
Mm-hmm, how it all goes together.
So, where did you or do you find people that you trust to pour into you?
Definitely at church. I don't know that I could find people just out in the world or at school or wherever. I don't know that I would really trust them with, being able to tell them things that I'm going through or struggling with. Definitely people at church. You guys, of course. Naomi and Jeff, they've always been like my second parents to me. I feel like I can go to them for pretty much anything. Just seeking out the people who I know have a relationship with God, who put him on a pedestal, who put him first, and not just, pretending to or saying like, oh, I'll pray for you, and that they're actually not praying for you because they don't really pray. Yeah. So definitely I feel that I would seek people at church. Yeah.
That's one of my biggest things. And I think that a lot of people are trying to be intentional when they're like, yeah, I'll pray for you. Mm-hmm. One of the things that I had to start making myself do is, okay, I'll pray for you right now.
Right now. I've had to do that as well, because I know that I've been guilty of that too. Someone will, just one of my friends or whatever, will be like, hey, I need prayer for this and this. And be like, okay, yeah, I'll pray for you. Yeah. And then I forget. I'm busy and I don't do it on purpose. But if I don't do it right then, I'm probably going to forget. But if I do it right then it's going to help me to remember, I need to continue to pray for this person.
Yeah. That's one of the things me and Michaela did. She did a little at-home date with us, and we made prayer boards.
Yes, I saw that. I love that.
And man, that being able to have that accountability and literally physically write it down and put it in its category. And for me personally, that makes it to where, even if I don't forget or remember every single word, like, God, all of these needs that I brought to you, and, going that way with it. And, I love making prayer very personal, because, when you make it personal, God returns it back personal, when you say, man, God, I wish for some strength, he's going to give you a lot of stuff to test your strength. And, when you're intentional with God, he'll be intentional back with you. That's one of the things I definitely learned in actually being intentional with people. And like when you said that you confide in me and Michaela, man, y'all guys have no idea how big it is for me personally, because, it's one of the things that I told a lot of people, like even talking to some of my doctors, are like, well, you have a hard time making friends. I was like, well, I got a lot of people I know.
That you would call friends.
I said, but I don't got like,
friends? Yeah.
And that's one of the things that me and Landon definitely have like been getting way closer than ever. And I love it. It makes me so happy that I know that I have somebody that I can is going to be there.
And I also have, aside from church, I have a really good family, and Landon has a really good family. So we were blessed with that, just being able to also confide in both of our families, which is good, because not everyone has that. So
that is true.
Thankful for that.
Okay. So this is a very also personal question. What sacrifices can people, I guess not really expect, but be on the lookout for, that they might have to sacrifice in ministry? Like what sacrifices?
Definitely time. It takes up a lot of time, and that's not necessarily bad, but you just have to, when you put your foot in that door, know that, hey, I'm going to have to sacrifice, some of my personal time for time in the church and with God. Because it does take up a lot of time. I've learned that, and it's been hard for me personally to put everything that I have into being a children's pastor, because I have so many other things that I'm worried about, which is terrible, but it's just life. I have to work, I have to make money, and maybe one day I can do that full time and make enough money to be able to support our family. But right now I have too many other things I have to hustle and try and do. But it takes up a lot of time, and there's a balance that you kind of have to try and find, even with your kids. I know that I've seen personally, just in different people that I know in their lives, how their families have put church before their kids. And I don't want to necessarily do that. I want to put God before my family and my kids, but I don't want my kids to feel like, other people
are more
important than them. So that's also been hard to try and find a balance, because I want to help these kids that I'm ministering to every Sunday and every Wednesday and in prayer for every day. But I also want my kids to know, like, hey, you're important too.
Yeah.
That's.
And I don't think that's really like for me, like when you said, man, it's I know it's terrible. I don't think it's terrible, man, because that's God gives you that to, get you ready for the next things that He has for you. You know what I mean? Like you're constantly learning on how to shuffle everything around, get your time management.
That's just been the thing for me the most, is my time has been a big sacrifice, and how to manage my time, because I just have, like I said, a lot of things I have to do and that I'm worried about, that it's been hard to put that as a priority when it really should be one of my number one priorities.
Well, the cool thing that you probably, I don't know if you see, but I see, and you and Landon, is that now you're creating that priesthood in your family, right? Yeah. So not only does your kids know they're important, but they know that they hold a place in God's kingdom, right? That's one of the coolest things about, even with like our kids as well, me and Michaela, is I want them to know that, yes, you are the most important thing in my life, but guess what? I want you to come with me to see God. Yes. I want you to be there for that.
Me and Landon were talking about that, because eventually we want to have, we want to go to Africa, and we want to be there and helping those people and those kids. And I was telling him the other day, like, our kids are so entitled. They think that they own everything, or they think they have a right to everything. And I'm like, you know what? People will go there and they'll just leave their kids at home because they don't want to expose them to all of that. But I was like, I want our kids to be exposed. I want them to see that what they have here in America and in their house specifically is just so much different than what those kids in Africa have, or even kids in our community. There's so many kids who don't have what my kids have. And I want them to be exposed to that. Like, I want them to see that they have a job, even as a kid, to help these other kids learn and grow and just build that relationship with Christ at a young age. So I think that's super important to expose them to things that they might not necessarily, people might say they shouldn't be exposed to that. They're so little, let them be a kid. But I think that kids can serve. I just do.
Hey, I'm telling you right now, from me personally, me growing up, my mom and dad did Glory Bound, which was, very big outreach to the lower level community and stuff like that. And me being exposed to that my whole life, dude, that's all it was. It brings you into that realization that, and people are people. Like it. And how you said, a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want my kids to be exposed to that. I'm in full agreement with you. I want my kids, dude, guys, look at this, man. They need you just as much as you need us, right? Let's all help them together, because that's one of the things that the big C, as I like to call it, church as a whole, is lacking in my opinion, is that community in between each other, right? Yeah. And that goes, we're all stuck on denomination base, and man, honestly, if we come under a body of believers, it just changes the whole ballgame.
It does. And I tell our kids that in church all the time. I say, you are not too young to serve. You're not. You can start right now just by doing something simple, even just going into your school and making friends with a kid who doesn't have any friends, or standing up whenever someone's getting bullied, even if you're going to be made fun of because you stood up for that kid who's being bullied. Just simple things like that. Holding open the door for elderly that you see at church, cleaning up after, because our kids are bad about that at church. Yours and mine both. But we constantly have to remind them, hey, this is God's house. Like, you need to come and you need to make it look presentable. And I got on to them last Wednesday a little bit, because it was just insanely loud and crazy before service started. And I mean, that's okay. They're kids. We talked about how this space is small. We don't have a lot of room. There's not a whole lot of things to do before church. But I said, if someone were to walk in right now, just someone who has never been here before, they would turn around and leave, because it was so chaotic back there. And they were just like, amazed that I said that. They were like, what? And I was like, it's loud, it's crazy. I know our space is small, but we have to make it welcoming in here. And if someone comes in and sees how crazy it is and how loud it is, they're not going to want to be here. We had that happen a couple weeks ago. She was a little bit older, not quite ready for youth yet, but almost, probably next year. And she was there maybe 3 minutes, and then she left. And I honestly think it was just because it was just loud and crazy. And so we talked about it, and they said they would do better. So we'll see. But I'm going to hold them accountable. Hey, I'm going to be like, you guys told me that you would. But so even just something simple as that, just, serving and helping those kids who have never been to church before, making the environment welcome for them by, keeping things presentable and cleaned up and not so crazy.
Yeah.
I don't even think that was on the topic of the question, but
it technically was. We're so good. So, you personally, how much time does it take, go into your ministry? How much of your time does it take?
What do you mean?
So, on a general basis, how much time do you spend
preparing for my ministry? I don't know. I would say it should take me a couple hours every day, just even if it's something as simple as praying for the upcoming services. It doesn't I don't spend near as much time, like I said earlier, as I should, preparing and getting ready. But I would say at least 2 to 3 days a week, trying to get things ready and just look at what I'm going to be talking about, praying over that, preparing our lesson, preparing if we're starting a new series, I have to get, everything ready for that. I would like to do way more. I would like to be able to go all out and decorate like you see at the mega churches or just make things a little bit more fun, but we really just don't have this space and I don't have the time for that right now. So hopefully one day though.
I'm just saying, in comparison to some churches I've been to, our children's ministry is awesome.
I do. I try to make it as good as I can, and I want people to feel comfortable bringing their kids. And I know we've grown so much. We have so many more kids than we used to when I first started. When it was just me and Abby, we had maybe 10 kids on a good day. Even when me and Landon first started, it was 10, 15, 20 kids, and now we're ranging 30 kids every Sunday and every Wednesday, maybe a little bit less, but it's usually right there. And so that's awesome. And that's what my goal is just keep growing and growing. By the time we get out here, I want it to be too small for us too. I want to have our own children's complex, a big building with, a gym and just different activities for them to do. But that's what I strive to do, is just to make it feel welcoming and inviting and fun for them, because they're not going to want to come back if it's not fun.
Yeah.
That's kids for you.
So what resources do you personally use to grow in your relationship with Christ?
Definitely godly people, people that I would confide in to, give me wisdom that I might not have. If I'm struggling with something, I know that I can go to just a few different people. I don't have a lot of people, but I know Landon's my one that I really trust in, and we both have a hard time branching out to other people just because, that's just how it's always been. We've been let down a lot, and we just don't have a lot of close-knit friends. So we really confide in each other a lot. And then we have a few people who we can go to. And then also, like I said, I've been doing better about reading my Bible. And this year I started a plan. It's the Tara Lee Cobble plan. Do you know what that is?
Yeah, I think it's the same thing.
I sent it to Michaela.
Yeah.
And she started it, and she was like, Lindsay, oh my word, this blew my mind just because of how in-depth it goes. And last year, like I said, it just kind of I got in a rhythm of doing it. I was just checking off the boxes. But this year, it's really, really helped me to think about the scripture that I'm reading and what it means. So that's a really good resource that I've been using this year. So it has a devotion to do. And it has 5 prayers that you pray. I think it's 5. I could be wrong. So I say those 5 prayers before I read every night. There's a little, before you start a new chapter, it is a graphic video, and it lays out the whole chapter, or the whole book for you, not chapter. So if I was starting Deuteronomy, it played a video last night about what Deuteronomy was going to cover. And then I read my scripture for the day. And after I read the scripture, you do your, talk about it, your God shot. What did you see, or how did you see God move in that scripture? And then you watch a little video by Tara Lee, and she explains exactly, what the scripture meant, and she breaks it down for you. And especially these last few chapters, it's helped because sometimes when I'm reading, I'm like, what did I just read? Yeah. Or this is so repetitive, but she still adds something like different to it every night. Yeah. And she's like, well, she always says, what was your God shot? And I try and do mine before she says hers, because I don't want to, I don't want it to mess up or mess with mine or seem like I copied off hers or something. But it's just been cool to see, the different things that I didn't notice before on my own versus how someone else viewed it. And I know we also have to take that kind of lightly as well, because some people might have different views than what we have. But I think pretty much she's been spot on for what, I would take from it as well. Oh, yeah. So that's been a really good resource for me this year so far.
Well, and like you said, man, sometimes one of the biggest things I think that we find when we're trying to, build our put arrows in our sheath is finding the right fruit, right? Because you don't want to be eating no rotten fruit.
And you have to be careful what you put in your mind.
Yeah, and that's always great. Like you said, that I told Michaela about it, and Michaela, but that's what we have to do, right? As fellow believers, if I find something that I'm like, oh man, that's awesome here,
share it with your friend. And I know she's liked it a lot too. So.
Well, and this, when you said that you confide in Landon a lot, and I think that's what God made us to do, right?
Because like a built-in best friend.
Like when you get married, that's one of the biggest things to me is Michaela is my best friend. And if I couldn't confide in her,
something would be
wrong. Don't get me wrong. Like, we did hit a pot start in our marriage where it was like that.
I think everyone does.
But and that's one thing I think that brought our relationship so much closer together was sticking God right in the middle of it, man. Because if God's not there, I think the glue's gone. You know what I mean?
I think so too. You got to make sure that He's first.
Oh yeah.
Because you'll be able to tell if He's not.
100%. That's for sure. So, what advice would you give somebody starting out in children's ministry?
Be prepared for a ride. Ups and downs for sure. Just make sure that it's what God has called you to do, because if it's not, you're not going to last there. And Landon and I are so blessed to have Edie and Shannon. Like, without them, I don't know what we'd do, because people will come in and they'll love it for a little bit and then they'll leave because it's not for them, or it's babysitting, and it's not. I hate when people say that children's ministry is babysitting. Like, it's right up here on my list of pet peeves. It's not babysitting. We should be mentors to them. We're leaders. We should be teaching them how to serve. And we're not just babysitting a bunch of kids. We're pouring into their lives. So don't come to children's ministry if you're going to say it's babysitting. And just make sure, like I said, that it's what God is calling you to do. Because if it's not, you're not gonna last there. Just same thing for youth. If you're called to youth ministry, God will lead you in that direction. That's where you're going to feel comfortable. You're not going to, there's days where, I'm like, I have to go. But for the most part, you're not going to feel like you're tired of it.
That's not, it turns into something that you enjoy instead of an obligation.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it turns into something, like you said, that you enjoy. So, I would just say that make sure God is in it, because if He's not, you're not going to be able to stay with it.
Well, it's like I told you before, man. I give you and Landon and Shannon and Edie so much props, because, like you said, man, children's ministry is not babysitting. Because me and Michaela did it for a while, and like I said to you, dude, they ask you some questions that you're like, I've never heard anybody ask that question before, and I don't have an answer for you.
And if you feel like you're babysitting, then you're not doing something right. Because it shouldn't feel like that. You're pouring into their lives. You're building the foundation. You're teaching them how to become leaders, how to become servants of Christ. You're teaching them, how to pray and how to build that relationship with God. So
cool. Me having 4 of mine and entrusting y'all guys with it, that's one of the things that I think is, and y'all guys are literally building them up to hand them off to Logan and Landon,
and
Logan and Ricky, and me and Michaela.
And then you guys are building them up to go there. So
it's like a transition. It's
chain reaction.
Well, people don't see the circle, right?
Yeah.
Because it's literally children's
nursery.
Youth.
Starts out as babies.
Yeah, that is true.
We are blessed
Sister
to have
Naoma, you're awesome.
She is. She teaches them from the second they're born. So.
Well, and that's the thing is it's a full circle because you're nursery, children's, youth, adult. You have kids, nursery, children's, youth, and if you don't have the people that are fit in those niches, like you should, that's where your ministry is lacking those spots.
And that's when you see churches that don't have a lot of babies or youth, just because they have some things that are lacking. So
well, that's one of the things that I can definitely say that we are blessed to have amazing pastors, Pastor Jeff and Sister Naoma. If you're watching it, you're amazing.
Yep, you're awesome.
But that's all I have for you. Again, thank you so much for coming on.
Thanks for having me.
Again, come back next week. We'll have another amazing leader on here. Don't forget to check out H&L Apparel. She's got some awesome stuff on there. God bless y'all.